Hey y'all, welcome to a new What's for Dinner. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 4 super easy, really delicious dinner ideas. I know that I typically do 5 dinners in these videos, but since we just had Thanksgiving and just all the leftovers that comes with that, I'm just going to do the 4 today so that I can get the video out today. So I hope that you guys don't mind, and I really hope that you all enjoy this video. I hope that you're able to find some really good dinner inspiration that appeals to you. First up, I'm going to be making some bacon cheeseburger subs, and I'm going to be cooking it all out on the Blackstone, but keep in mind, you don't have to. I know that the weather's getting a lot colder, which I've realized that I actually prefer to cook on my Blackstone in cooler weather versus like the summertime. I don't know why I am that way, but anyways, you can totally do this indoors on your stovetop. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm frying up a whole package of bacon. And my Kroger has been having some really good sales on bacon the last few months. I've been able to get these packs for just $3 a piece, which is an awesome deal. Anytime I see that sale going on, I grab at least 4 and just throw them in my freezer. So I've been thankful for that. And I have realized that we much prefer like the original cut of bacon versus like a thick cut of bacon, which sometimes that's good for certain recipes, but for the most part, we just like the original cut because it just crisps up so nicely and gets it perfectly crispy just like we like. And one thing I really love about cooking bacon on the Blackstone is how fast it cooks up. It felt like as soon as I put that on there, it was done. So got that transferred to a paper towel lined plate, and now I'm going to cook up about a pound of some ground beef. And I know that looks like very little, especially compared to this big old, griddle top. But 1 pound is the perfect amount for my family as of right now anyways. And my family, for the most part, is not huge on leftovers. It just depends on what it is. So a lot of nights I'm just trying to cook exactly what we'll eat that night. So I like to grab this Mr. Steak Super Blend seasoning when it comes to ground beef. It's basically salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder all in one bottle. Really good. So I added quite a bit of that, and I also love to add quite a bit of Worcestershire sauce when it comes to anything cheeseburger flavored. I think it just makes it over the top. So now that I've got all of that added, I'm just going in with both of my spatulas, and I'm just getting that chopped up real good, tossing it around, and I'm just going to continue cooking it until it's fully cooked through. So here I'm just taking 4 slices of American cheese and just laying that over the top. When it comes to cheeseburgers, we really just like the processed cheese that comes in like the plastic wrappers, but obviously feel free to use whatever cheese you want to, any flavor. I think pepper jack would be a nice change up on this. So I'm just gonna continue stirring that around until that cheese is fully melted all the way through. Took about a minute, and not only is that gonna make it extra good mixing the cheese throughout it like that, it's also gonna help hold it together on the sub bun instead of just completely crumbling off of it. So got that transferred to a bowl, took it inside, and the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to butter and toast up some sub buns. So 9 times out of 10, when we are using buns for anything, I really do like to take a little bit of extra time to butter and toast them. I'm not 100% perfect with it, but it really does make it a little extra special, and it just makes everything taste so much better. So I just took a kind of a big old glob of butter and just put it on over there to the left side of my griddle, and I lay down my sub rolls open face style, and I do cook those on a lower temperature because these Blackstones will burn them up if you are not careful. I've done that before. So probably 2 minutes or less I had these done. So that was it. Very little time. This is the perfect weeknight meal. So here's the setup. I did some lettuce, tomatoes, and pickles. I've got all of the condiments laid out, and then we did the Rally's frozen French fries. My family really likes those. These cheeseburger subs were a huge hit with everyone, especially my daughter, because her favorite food is sub sandwiches. So she was definitely a big inspiration when I was planning to make these. But it's just a little bit of a different take on your classic cheeseburger. I don't make cheeseburgers all that often because we get them other places. So it's always a nice treat when I do make them from home. They are a little bit messy to eat, but 100% worth it in our opinion. This was a good one. Next up, I'm going to be making some green bean casserole in the crock pot. This is going to be a side dish to go along with dinner. So I've got 3 cans of green beans. These are the kitchen style ones, so they're cut a little bit different, but I bought those because that was what was on sale. You'll need to drain those, dump them in the bottom of your crock pot, and then I'm going to be using 2 cans of cream of celery. I know that most people use cream of mushroom in these recipes, but green bean casserole isn't all that common for me. I've only had it like a couple of times, and it's always been following this recipe right here. So this is the only way that I've tasted it, and I love it so much that I just don't feel a need to try it any other way as of right now. But I've added a 1/2 cup of milk to the cream of celery. I did a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce, some black pepper, onion, and garlic powder. So now I'm just taking my whisk, and I'm mixing that together real good until it's all nice and smooth. I love my crock pot back there. I don't think I have showed it on YouTube yet. I got that back in September from Target, and I just love the color of it, the size of it. I just love it so much. But I poured all of that cream of celery flavorful mixture over top of my green beans, and I'm just taking a soft spatula, and I'm carefully folding it all together. I do have this sped up, but in real time, I was being very careful with it because I don't want to completely mush everything up. I don't want anything mushed at all, but I'm going to add my lid to that, and I'm going to let it cook on low for about 4 hours. So when that was getting close to the end of its cook time, I'm going to start on the main course, which is one of the most simplest meals on the planet. So I've got some deli turkey slices, and I've got some leftover dressing, and this is from my last video where my dad showed y'all his recipe for his homemade dressing. So I want to thank those of you who watched that video. If you missed it and you want to see how he makes his dressing, which is the best in my opinion, that will be linked down below in the description box. But obviously, if you don't have any leftover stuffing or dressing, you can do some boxed stovetop if you want to. But this jar of turkey gravy, I've had that in my pantry for a while. It was a little bit past its expiration date, and I pretty much based this whole dinner around using that up. So I poured the whole jar over the top of the turkey roll-ups. I covered it with tin foil, and I baked it at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. It doesn't get any simpler than that. I know they're not pretty to look at, but they are delicious. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish up the green bean casserole. So I'm grabbing some French's crispy fried onions. I know that might shock some of y'all who know that I'm like really against onions, but this recipe right here is what made me try these, and I realized that I actually really like those. So I put about a cup into the green bean casserole and mix it all together. That's going to absorb some of the liquid and give it a better consistency, extra flavor. And I also added about 3/4 of a cup over top of the casserole to make it look nice. And I just think that this is so delicious. I don't make it often at all, so I was really looking forward to this. I have been craving it, and I'm glad that I finally made it. So I have 2 of the turkey stuffing roll-ups. I did top everything with some extra black pepper. I also made some really good homemade mashed potatoes with some of that turkey gravy from the pan to go over it. And I did not know that Great Value came out with these frozen dinner rolls. I was excited when I saw that. This was my first time buying them, and they are really good. My kids love rolls, and they went wild over these, so I will most definitely be repurchasing these. But we all really enjoyed this meal. It was just something a little bit different from our typical dinners. On this night, I finally made something that I have been wanting to make for several months now. It is a chicken wing bowl, which is similar to a seafood bowl, but it's for people who are not big on seafood or may be allergic. This is a great option for you. So I filled my largest pot about halfway up with water, and once it started coming up to like a low boil, I added in about a 1/2 stick of butter. I did a 1/2 cup of some Old Bay seasoning. Now, the original recipe did call for seafood bowl seasoning, but I could not find that locally, and I didn't plan ahead enough to go a town over, so I substituted it for the Old Bay. I also did a third cup of lemon pepper. So I know that seems like a lot of seasoning if you are not familiar with something like this, but you got to remember it's super diluted with the water. It all works out in the end. So I mix that together good, and this is the red potatoes that I'm going to be using. You definitely want to use the small potatoes for this. I did wash them just right through the bag since it has the little holes in the bottom. And I started by carefully doing it by the handful, but I was tired of getting splashed on, so I did start doing it with a slotted spoon, just doing a little bit at a time. And then after I get all of my potatoes added, I'm also going to start dropping in some ears of corn. I'm going to do 6 of them, and I am just using some frozen corn on the cob, but you can definitely use fresh if you have it. I just know that corn's not really good and in season right now. And I thawed out a package of Polish sausage from my freezer, and I cut that into bigger pieces than what I normally would. You want it to be in kind of large pieces. My kids love that. My husband's starting to really love that too. He used to not like Polish sausage, so got that dropped into there, and I waited for it to come up to a good boil like this, and I set a timer for 20 minutes. So while that's cooking on the stove, I'm going to go ahead and get my wings going. So as you can see, this was $10.43. I got it for $2.07. That is a crazy good deal. I've had this in my freezer, and I've been saving it for a good occasion, which I would say that is what this is. So I did have to separate the flats from the drum, so I did that off camera, and here I am just taking them individually and patting them dry very well with a paper towel so the skins can get nice and crispy. So I drizzled those with some olive oil, and I'm going to season them very well with some Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. I also did some onion and garlic powder, and lastly just some paprika. So I'm going to go in there and toss those around with my hands to make sure that all sides are fully seasoned well. The original creator to this recipe did deep fry her chicken wings, and I just know that would be amazing, but I like to take shortcuts, and I really love cooking wings in my air fryer. It's one of my favorite things to use my air fryer for. Works really good, and it gets it done quick. So I did preheat my air fryer basket at 400 degrees for about 5 minutes before I started adding in the wings. I also sprayed my basket with some nonstick cooking spray. I cooked those at 400 for 10 minutes, and then I pulled them out. I'm taking my silicone tongs, and I'm getting them each individually flipped over. This is not something that I really enjoy doing, but it is pretty necessary just to make sure that everything's getting evenly cooked, evenly crispy, all of that good stuff. So once I finally got that done, I am going to pop that back into my air fryer, and I'm going to let those finish cooking for 8 minutes at 400 degrees. So it just takes 18 minutes. So by that point that I got the chicken wings and back into the air fryer, everything on the stove is done. My potatoes are really nice and tender. So I'm just taking my smallest little strainer, and I'm just dipping out all of those ingredients out of the liquid, and I'm just dumping that out onto my largest cookie sheet. Now, you don't have to use a cookie sheet. You can use anything that you want to serve it onto, like a nice serving platter, casserole dish, doesn't matter. But I did take a large lemon. I cut it into quarters, and I'm just placing that around the edges of the sheet pan. My chicken wings were still not done quite yet, so I went ahead and started my butter sauce. So I am cutting the butter sauce recipe in half since she used more wings than I did. So I did a stick of butter, a big spoonful of minced garlic, some Cajun seasoning, lemon pepper seasoning, onion, garlic powder, chili powder, paprika, and some hot sauce. I'm pretty sure that I covered everything. I know it's a lot to remember, but this recipe will be linked in my description box. But I just cooked that long enough pretty much to melt the butter, and it smelled amazing. I love the deep, rich color of it. And now my chicken wings are finally done, so I'm just strategically placing them all over the cookie sheet to make it look nice. And the last step is to drizzle that butter sauce all over everything. I did transfer it to a measuring cup to make it easier to pour. I should have gave it a stir before I started pouring because everything kind of settled to the bottom and clumped up. So that was the only thing that I regret about this, but I still think it looks nice. It was really fun, and we loved it. It was such a hit. This is something that I definitely overthought and thought that it was going to take a long time, but it actually came together very quick, and I would definitely make it again. For the last meal in this video, I'm going to share one of our favorite dinners. It's going to be some sweet and sour pork chops over some Instant Pot garlic Parmesan rice. So I'm going to start with the rice first. So I have my saute button on in the Instant Pot. I'm melting down about 3 tablespoons of butter, and I've added in a few fresh cloves of garlic that I just quickly chopped up. And I'm just going to continue sauteing that until the butter is melted, and then I'm going to turn the Instant Pot off. Here I'm adding in 1 1/3 cup of some uncooked white long grain rice that I did rinse off really well first. Dump that on in there, and I'm just tossing it around in that garlic butter. Now I'm going to measure out 2 cups of chicken broth and add that on in. I have not been using my Instant Pot lately. I really need some more Instant Pot recipes. I would love it if y'all would let me know your go-to Instant Pot recipes in the comments. I will say though, I always love to pull it out for rice dishes. I think it does it so good. I did add in some dried parsley. I made sure that everything was pushed down into the liquid, and then I added on my lid. I knew that went on way too easy. It didn't feel right, and what do you know, I did forget to add the seal to it. So that right there is the struggle that I'm looking for. So I got the lid on. I got the valve set to sealing. I'm going to hit my manual button, and I'm going to set the time for 6 minutes. As soon as that timer goes off, I'm going to do a quick release, let all that steam out, and as soon as the pin drops, I open the lid. And I'm going to add some Parmesan cheese to it. Sometimes I use fresh, which is better, but it's still good too with the bottled stuff. I'm going to fluff all of that up, and then that's it. That's all there is to it. It's very simple, but it is such a good side dish, and it goes so good with these sweet and sour pork chops. I found this recipe last year in a Taste of Home cookbook, and we instantly became obsessed. It's been a while since I made it, and it's been on my mind, so I just knew I had to make them. So I got my big skillet out. I have heated up some olive oil in it, and I'm just getting all of my pork chops added to it, seasoned side down. These are the Uncle Charlie's pork chops that, if you've watched my videos, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. If you live around me, you know what Uncle Charlie's is. It's basically like a good quality meat store, but they also sell it at my local Save-A-Lot, and it's just really good quality. I've only use the Uncle Charlie's pork chops in this dish, so I never have an issue with anything turning out tough. It's always just super tender. That's what I love about them. But I did season these with some Lawry seasoned salt and black pepper on both sides. You don't want to go heavy-handed with the salt because we're going to be using a salty sauce, so you don't want it to get to be too much. But I just cooked these for a few minutes on each side till it got that nice golden brown color and the juices ran clear, and then I removed that to a separate plate. I did leave this pan on the heat for too long. I got sidetracked and it started to kind of burn, like all the pan dripping, so I had to scrape some of it out. So I quickly added in a 1/2 cup of water, a 1/3 cup of apple cider vinegar, a 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I did use a lower sodium version, and a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. So all of that is going to deglaze the pan. You want to give it a good stir to get all that brown sugar really broken up, and as soon as it starts to simmer, you want to add in a cornstarch slurry. All that is a tablespoon of cornstarch to 2 tablespoons of cold water. Mix that good, and then add it into your simmering mixture. And as soon as it starts really bubbling, it's going to instantly start to thicken, and it's going to become this most amazing glaze, and it is so flavorful. I think it would also be really good with chicken if you are not into pork chops, but like I mentioned before, my family, especially my kids, really love pork chops. So I added my pork chops and all the juices that was on the plate back into the sauce, and I just let it simmer for a few minutes, and it was done. I love to put some of that glaze over the rice. It goes so good together, and we like to pair it with some sort of steamed vegetable. So we did steamed broccoli this night, and I just highly, highly recommend this recipe. It is amazing. Very quick to throw together. But that's all I got for y'all today. I want to thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you all have an amazing and safe weekend, and I'll see y'all in my next video.